Alright, let's start out by saying Barakatah YAHAWAH, BaHa YAHAWASHI, BaHa QADASH. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is simply The Tribes. I believe I was watching some videos earlier, and I'm not sure how this topic came about through the Spirit. I'm not sure if a brother said something or mentioned something about the tribes or something. I'm not really exactly sure how it came about, but I got an idea to do a lesson pretty much on the tribes, and just going back, into the history, dealing with the 12 tribes of Israel and pretty much how they came about. So Lord's will, this lesson will be edifying, and kind of covered two points, one on the origins of the tribes, and two on women that were barren and women that were fruitful, and when you go back into the history, you had certain women that were barren, and that was a big thing that brought a lot of shame back then to women, was if they couldn't bear children. That was like a reproach. In this society, unfortunately, it's a blessing, because the way that the system is set up, Esau pretty much uses a blessing from the Lord, the children, to oppress mainly the man in this society. So as heartless as it may sound, it's a blessing not to have children in this setup, even though children are a blessing from the Lord, a very beautiful blessing from the Lord, but unfortunately in this society, these devils use that, against the man, like I said already. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off in the book of Psalms, and we're going to see, where the Spirit leads this. I got a few precepts up and see how it goes. But the first scripture I wanted to start off with is the book of Psalms, the 127th chapter, and the 3rd verse. It says, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord," because these children that come from the man and the woman, the descent lineage comes from the man, and the woman plays a big part in it also. This is what determines, who you are. And some people say, well, what does it matter what nationality somebody is? Well, it matters because you need to know who you are to know what your future is going to be, because the Israelites will have the kingdom of heaven, and the other nations will be servants. They'll be slaves, and it's important to know who you are. Now, scriptures speak about not giving heed to genealogies, because none of us can really trace our lineage all the way back to the land of Israel, but we are, like the scriptures say, our spirit bears witness with the Lord's Spirit that we are the children of the Most High, that we are the Israelites. And the way that the Lord is doing it now is he's sifting the house of Israel by this word, so if you understand this word, if you believe in this word, and you teach in this word, then you are an Israelite, because the scriptures speak about that the heathen will not enter into the congregation of the Lord, so boom, that's it. So that's why it's important to know your heritage. So the Lord said, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord," and children would be the ones that would inherit lands and wealth and different things from their fathers. All right, it says, "And the fruit of the womb is his reward." So when the Lord would shut up a woman's womb, that would be reproachful to that woman. That woman would feel less than a woman because she couldn't have children, and that was the Lord shutting her womb. It says, "As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth." Yeah, because when people are young and they have children, the children come out much more stronger, than they do when someone is of old age. Because when you're older, when you get old age, and you still have children, especially in this society, your children could come out deformed, or they could come out, special needs, because the body starts to degenerate. So it's best to have children in the youth, because that is the strong, when they'll be the strongest, so to speak. We brings to mind the book of Second Ezra. Second Ezra, I'm not sure exactly what chapter it is, where it speaks about a woman having children in her youth, and how they're of a different fashion in the woman's youth, than when the woman gets older, because the body starts to degenerate, So it says, as arrows are in the hand of the mighty man, so are children of the youth. It says, happy is the man that has his quiver full of them. Right. In other words, you have a gang of children, which is a beautiful thing. That is a very beautiful blessing from the Lord. But as I said before, unfortunately, in this kingdom, it's a curse, because these devils use the children against the parents, and mainly to oppress the man, That's why you got something called child support and so on and so forth, because they're used and they encourage some of these women, if they're not having them abort their babies, they enable. I just use another word. I can't think of the word right now, but they push these women to have the children if they don't have them aborted, for the purpose of oppressing the man, so that the state can make more money off of the man, and pretty much just make you a slave perpetually, All right, so it goes on to say, they shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. Yeah, because this is why it's important, to know who you are, because the Israelites are going to be blessed, whether they be destroyed on this side or not. Eventually, the scriptures say that all Israel shall be saved, So when all Israel being THAWADAH, brother, encourage, yeah. When all Israel be saved, then you'll see the real blessings. All right, so now let's go from there to Genesis 49:3. Reuben, this is dealing with Jacob giving his sons the blessings and the things that will happen to them in the future. So what he said to Reuben is, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength. Why? Because we read here, happy is the man that has his quiver full of them. Because this is as the arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. So children are a hedge, because they help with the work, whatever has to be done, they help relieve the burden of that work from their father and mother, because you have daughters. So it says the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. So Reuben, which was his firstborn, which was a son, was the beginning of Jacob's strength. Because that, the more children you had, the more of a hedge you had. So moving on, Psalms 113:9, he maketh the barren woman to keep house, and to be a joyful mother of children. Praise ye the Lord. So a woman would be reproached. She would be ashamed if she couldn't have children. And that was a big thing back then. That's why women would compete with each other, to see who can pop out the most children, because that was a fruitful womb to a woman back then was her greatest desire, her greatest joy. So moving on, this is Genesis 29:31. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So this is going into the origins of how the 12 tribes were born back then. All right. So when you read the story, Jacob served Laban 7 years for Rachel, but he ended up giving him Leah. And he said it seemed like it went by quick, because he was someone in love with Rachel, but then he ended up giving him Leah. And then he served another 7 years, which was 14 years, and then he got Rachel also. But he loved Rachel, but he really didn't care so much for Leah. And the Lord opened up Leah's womb, but he closed Rachel's womb. He made her barren. Matter of fact, let's look up this word barren, see what it says. Barren, barren, barren. barren. Iquar, barren, sterile. See? She couldn't bear children. So going back. So let's read that again. It says, and when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived, meaning she got pregnant, with Jacob's seed. Okay? And I'm saying it that way for a reason. And bare a son. And she called his name Reuben. Now, when we went back, we read about Reuben, what Jacob said, that he was the beginning of his strength. So the word Reuben, going back to the Hebrew word Ra'abun, what you have here, Reuben, Ra'abun, which means see, it's a son. So Ra'abun, see, it's a son, which today would be the so-called Seminole Indians. All right, so it goes on to say, for she said, surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. Why? Because she started bearing him children. Remember, Rachel was at this point was still barren. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Now Simeon goes back to the Hebrew word Shemaiwan, which means affliction heard. What you have here is Simeon, which are the so-called Dominicans today. Okay, so Shemaiwan, or affliction heard, right? Then it says, and she conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. And Levi, from the Hebrew word loya, which means joined to me. What you have here, Levi, are the so-called Haitians today. All right. So it goes on to say, and she conceived again and bare a son. So this is her 4th son. And she said, now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left barren. And when you look up the word Judah goes back to the Hebrew word, as you see here, YAHAWAH, which is a compound word, which means the Most High be praised. Yahweh being the name of the Most High, and the Da is short for THAWADAH. So in other words, she said Yahweh THAWADAH, but you put it together, YAHWAH. Yahweh be thanked, or Yahweh be praised. As you see here, Judah. You see that, Yahwadah, which comes from Judah praised, which is a compound word, Yahweh, and Da, which is THAWADAH. Let's see what they say here. Yadah, to throw, shoot, cast. So pretty much that's a compound word. So that's what the name Judah means. And Judah, which is the head tribe, today are the so-called Negroes. Right here, Judah, so-called Negroes. All right, this is the tribe of Judah, the head tribe. The most important of all the tribes. The tribe that's the closest to the Most High. The tribe of all the 12 tribes of Israel that is the closest to being God-like. That's why they do amazing things that no one else can do. The other tribes do amazing things too, but not on the level of Judah, because Judah, Yahweh, that is the head tribe, the tribe that the Most High loves the most. And that's why he gave him that spirit. And that's why Isaac said that Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. You're going to be exalted because they're going to be the head tribe. You see? And they are the head tribe. You know, we read that in different passages. So going back, now we're going to jump into the Genesis, the 30th chapter, in the 1st verse. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, check this out. Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. Okay? So now you got to keep that in mind. Give me children or else I die, right? And we're going to get into it some more. Because once again, it was a shame for a woman not to be able to bear children. See, in this society, you have Planned Parenthood, you have abortion clinics, where you have the black woman, the Latino woman, and the women of the other tribe going there, aborting their children. them women back in the days, if they were to be brought up to this time and seen you doing that, they would put you to death. Especially the ones that were barren. Be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, stupid bitch? You know? Because children are a joy. It's a blessing. But in this society, it's fucked up, man. This is a fucked up society. It's a fucked up world, man. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel and said, am I in the Most High stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? So who makes someone be sterile or barren? The Most High. So when a woman gets pregnant, that's the Lord opening up her womb for her to conceive children. See? So it's a blessing. So Jacob got mad at her. Like he had the power over the Most High. And it's the Most High that's the one that closed her womb. It says, and she said, behold, my maid BaHa going unto her. So she's saying, see, she was in such a desperate state that she said, well, if I can't bear children, at least my maid can bear children for me. You know? The next best thing. And she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him BaHa, her handmaid, to wife, and Jacob went in unto her, and BaHa conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, the Most High hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan, which comes from the Hebrew word Dan, which means judge. And you know, during the time of the judges, the greatest judge, you know, you had many judges during the time of judges. It comes from the word Dan. And one of the greatest Danites ever was Samson. You know, now in today we don't know exactly what happened to the tribe of Dan. You'll have those that say that they know exactly what happened. You don't know because it's not in the scriptures. It doesn't really go into detail, but we'll know about that in the kingdom of heaven. And this is why when you read the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter, it doesn't mention Dan. Because Dan, we believe, is intermingled among the other tribes. Their spirit is not dead. It's still there. But the Most High was making room for 12 tribes. Because eventually Levi would be a part of the tribes, because Levi was set up to be the priest. But the Lord promised even way back then when the law was written that the Lord would make the whole nation, the men of the nation, priests and kings. See? So there had to be room made for Levi as a tribe. All right? So there you go with Dan. It says, and BaHa, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali, which goes back to the Hebrew word Naphthalia, which means my wrestling. What you have here, the tribe of Naphtali, would be the so-called Argentinians to the Chileans, which is down in the southern part of South America, the southern border. You know, and that's scriptural also, where the Lord said to inherit the south and the to inherit this. How does it go? Let me get that real quick. I believe that's Deuteronomy 33, if I'm not mistaken. Just bear me 1 second. Right here, Naphtali. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. And the west is what? The western hemisphere, which we're at. And the furthest south you go is what? It's down there in South America. So the southern half of South America, which happens to be two countries there, I guess you could say, which is Chile, which is on the outer coast in the by the Pacific Ocean, and then you have Argentina, which is on the other side, which is near the Atlantic Ocean coast. So that is the tribe of Naphtali today. All right. So going back to Genesis chapter 30, verse 9, and when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took. So the Lord closed up Leah's womb at this point, because he let her pop out 4 children, and she wasn't getting pregnant anymore. And she saw they were in competition. These women were in competition, you know, to please their man, to bear children for this man, so that he can love them even more. It says, and when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah's, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad, which the name Gad goes back to the word God, which means troop. And God, or troop, as we see here, are the so-called North American Indians today. All right? Going back, it says, Genesis 30:12, and Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher, which goes back to the Hebrew word Ashar, which means happy. And Asher would be the Colombians to the Uruguayans. This would be the northern half of South America. And when you check out Naphtali, their land in the land of Israel, they were up in the north. They were not in the south or in the west. They were up in the north. Okay, that was something else that I wanted to bring out. But anyway, moving on. So Asher means happy, Ashar. Genesis 30:14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. So pretty much what she did was she hired, Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray. She asked for the mandrakes, and the mandrakes, when you go into mandrakes was like a stimulant to strengthen a woman's womb so that they could have children. You know, we used to teach years ago that it was for the man, like your hembe or something like that, but or horny goat weed or whatever. But no, this is for a woman to take so that the woman could be could get sterile. I'm sorry, not sterile. Could get can bear children, right? And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. So pretty much she hired, she does just show you, man, this mentality women do not have today. Here it is, they're competing for their man, right? And then she asking for the mandrakes so she could take him, but she's saying, look, you can lay with him tonight. So pretty much Leah hired Jacob to sleep with her that night. Women have a problem, with a man having more than one woman today. And that's scriptural, as long as that other woman don't have another man or husband. So it says, and Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. See? It says, and the Most High hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. And that's outside of the other two that were by her handmaid. It says, and Leah said, go, the Most High have given me my hire, because I have given my maidens to my husband, my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar, which is where you get the Hebrew word Yashashkar, which means he is hired. And Issachar today, or Yashashkar, would be the so-called Mexicans. And the word Issachar or Yashashkar means he is hired. And there's not a harder working tribe than the so-called Mexicans. All right? Yeah, that's right. Fertile, THAWADAH, brothers, THAWADAH. So there's not a harder working tribe than the so-called Mexicans. Now that they've been in this country a while, they adapted to the culture of America, so now they kind of got a little uppity. But back when they first started really coming up this way, even now, you go anywhere and they're all over the place. Everywhere you go, wherever you eat, you eat Moabite food, but you shouldn't be eating no fucking Moabite food. But if you do, you have Issachar usually back there cooking. You go to the so-called East Indians, you have Issachar back there cooking. Anywhere you go, landscaping, whatever, carpentry, the Issachar is all over the place. Standing on the corners in the mornings, waiting to get hired. And that's all a part of prophecy. Now, moving on, verse 19. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. So that's 8 altogether, 6 from her so far and 2 from her handmaid. And Leah said, the Most High hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun, which comes from the Hebrew word Zabalawan, which means my dwelling. And you have Zebulun here, which are the so-called Guatemalans to Panamanians, which is Central America. You know, if you was to pull up a map, you could see, you know, from North America all the way down, you know. Let's see. See if I can find a bigger map. Just bear with me 1 second. No, that's too small. Let's see. This one's probably small. No, here we go. Beautiful. All right, so let's go here. You have North America. Then you have up here, you have Alaska. You know, you have a lot of Gadites up here. Those Eskimos, a lot of them are Israelites. You have North America, which comprised of Gad, Reuben, and Issachar in the southern half of the of America. Belonged to Issachar at one time. Then you have, you know, so-called Mexico, which is Issachar. And then you have here Central America, which is Guatemala to Panama. All of this, this is the tribe of Zebulun. And there's a haven of ships that comes through here known as the Panama Canal, which these devils, you know, did some treacherous shit back in 92 to the so-called Panamanians, the Israelites down there, because they wanted to keep this possession, because this is a very key place to own, because ships come through here. It cuts the time, you know, a lot shorter than having to go all the way around South America. They could come right straight through to go through the Pacific, you know, instead of having to go all the way around South America. Then you have, as we mentioned before, this is Chile down here. You can see the separation. This is Chile right here. Then this is Argentina, which that's Asher. I'm sorry, that's Naphtali. And then you have Colombia, Ecuador, you know, Venezuela, Brazil, Bolivia, and all these other places here, Uruguay, Paraguay. These are all the tribe of Asher. And then you have here the Guyana and all this. This is Benjamin here. You know, Benjamin settled around here also. You know, then you have Benjamin in the islands, so-called Jamaica, so on and so forth. You know, Ephraim, Island of Puerto Rico. Then you had Cuba, which is Manasseh. All right, so now, going back, it says, and afterwards she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah. Dinah is the word Danya, I believe. Let me see. Let me make sure. Danya. Diana, which is a feminine way of saying Dan, all right, which is judgment, or you could say like judge, all right. And the Most High remembered Rachel, and the Most High hearkened to her and opened her womb. Now check this out. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, the Most High have taken away my reproach. See, why? Because it was a shame for a woman not to be able to bear children. So the Lord took away her reproach when she allowed her to get pregnant, and she called his name Joseph. Now Joseph comes from the Hebrew word Yahawasah, which means he will add. Why? Because through Joseph, he added 2 more tribes to the nation of Israel, which was Ephraim and Manasseh. And that's why they're a part of it, a part of the 12 tribes, which goes back to what Jacob, the blessing that Jacob gave to Joseph. I believe that's Genesis the 48th chapter. Right. Genesis 48:1. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, which were born of an Egyptian mother. All right. So they were Israelites, that had an Egyptian mother. And Jacob didn't shun them. Jacob embraced them. You have others that will say that Manasseh and Ephraim were heathens because they will call them mamzers or bastards because they were born of a Israelite man and a heathen woman. The only way a mamzer exists or a bastard is if an Israelite woman has children by another nation. That's a bastard because he doesn't belong to the nation of Israel, no matter how much he looks like his mother or other Israelites. Anyway, it says, And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, The Most High hath Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy two sons Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. So they were brought into the heritage of the 12 tribes. And thy issue, which thou begettest after them, in other words, any other children you have after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. So if Joseph would have had other sons, which it doesn't mention if he did or not, they would have been of either Ephraim or Manasseh. All right, so you could understand. So building on that, let's go to Numbers chapter 1 and 32. It says, Of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Ephraim, were 40,500. So Joseph and Ephraim are interchangeable one with the other. That's why sometimes you hear them use the word Ephraim, or sometimes you hear Joseph, like in the case of the book of Revelation 7, which when you read about the 144,000, in the 8th verse it speaks about of the tribe of Joseph was sealed 12,000, which are the Ephraimites, because their names are interchangeable one with the other. Okay, so whenever you see Joseph or you see Ephraim, there is speaking about the same tribe, so you could understand. All right, so going back, so that would be 11 sons already, plus Dinah. And it came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away that I may go unto my own place and to my country. Now let me see. Just bear with me 1 second. I believe that might be Genesis 35, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just type it in. Benjamin. Oh boy. Bullshit ass commercial. Alright, so here we go. Genesis 35 and 16. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath, and Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. So she was pregnant with another son, right? And it came to pass when she was in hard labor that the midwife said unto her, Fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. Benjamin Banyamyan, son of the right. What you have here, Benjamin, which are the so-called West Indians, which are in these different lands here. You have the West Indies, you have, most of these islands, are pretty much Benjamin. Besides Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, besides those places, the rest of them are pretty much Benjamin. Even up in like Barbados, and a lot of them are Benjamites. Some of them are, are so-called Arawak, Arawak and Taino, Caribbean, so-called Caribbeans, which are also Israelites, but a lot of them are Benjamin. All right. So going back, and Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon her grave, that is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. So that's the 12 tribes of Israel. And we also dealt with women that were fruitful and women that were barren. Now, when you get a chance, you could read the book of 1 Samuel, the first chapter. And it goes into the story, the history of Hannah, who was Elkanah's wife. And she was barren. And then Peninnah, which was his other wife, she had many children, and she would mock Hannah because Hannah could, she was barren. So that's why it was a reproach. People they'll talk about you, they'll make the woman feel bad, worse than what she was already feeling anyway. And the Lord eventually blessed her and had her to have Samuel, which was a great man in Israel, great prophet in Israel. And then after she lent him to the Lord, what the Lord did in reward for her was he allowed her to have 3 more sons and 2 daughters. I believe altogether she had 6 children. 5 of them were pretty much hers, and the Samuel became the Lord's, and he officiated the business of the Lord. And this is a beautiful story because it shows you how, she was barren, she was hated of the other woman, the one that had children, but the Lord eventually blessed her in the long run, all right, to make her fruitful. All right, so pretty much that's it right there. This has been the tribes, and we dealt also with the barren and fruitful, because a woman's shame or reproach will be taken away when she received children, just like Sarah. Let's get that real quick. But Sarai was barren. She had no child. And what happened? Eventually, she got pregnant and had Isaac. And the same thing, they were being, her handmaid and the son were despising her because she couldn't have children. All right. But the Lord took her reproach away from her. Let's see if I could find that. Which I think we read that already. Yeah, which Rachel said the Lord took away her reproach. Okay, so pretty much that's it. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. THAWADAH for all the comments. I didn't get to any of the comments. But, by the way, Manasseh is from the Hebrew word Manashah, which means made to forget. Because the Lord made Joseph forget his travails in the land of Egypt by giving him that son. And also the other one, Ephraim, or Paryam, means I am fruitful, because the Lord gave him children and made him fruitful. All right? So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.